In this video, we're going to talk about how my life was completely changed by long COVID and what I did to make a full recovery from it when, at the best of times, it seemed like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. Now, please be aware, this is not any sort of medical advice. This is purely a fitness channel. I'm just documenting what I did to get better because I get a lot of questions on this. So before you do anything in this video, make sure you consult your doctor, your medical professional. Right, so a little bit of a backstory. I've always been a pretty fit, healthy individual ever since I was a kid, all the way through teenage years, all the way through my 20s. I'm now 36, going on 37. I did martial arts when I was younger, karate, kickboxing, kung fu, and I got into lifting weights when I was around 17, 18 years old. I made significant progress, and then I became a PT when I was 22 years old. I experienced a lot of success in the fitness industry. I got my own gym in 2015. So needless to say, I've always been in pretty great shape. In fact, my career depended on it. And then we fast forward to 2020 when COVID hit. My gym was forced to close down, which was a massive spanner in the works because my girlfriend was pregnant with our first baby during the lockdowns. We had police showing up at my gym threatening £10,000 fines, which we didn't have at that time. We were skint on the bones of our backside. So it was a very stressful time, but the silver lining was I was one of the lucky ones. I didn't get COVID during that time in 2020. I just want to let you know that I didn't get the COVID jab. The reason why I say this is because a lot of people who did have the COVID jab experienced similar negative health symptoms that we're going to talk about in this video. So 2021, we came out of lockdowns, business resumes as usual. I got in great shape for my mate's stag do. 2021 was a pretty decent year, but then as soon as 2022 hit, I started getting sick on and off pretty much throughout the entire year, and it had completely wiped me out. Despite being sick, I was still able to get in pretty decent shape for Ibiza in 2022, but then in January 2023, just after training a client, I was walking across my AstroTurf in my own gym, and then something hit me like a ton of bricks in my chest. It basically felt like my heart stopped, and I got a cold feeling throughout my entire body. My whole body started shaking. I had a pain in my chest, pain down my left arm, so typical heart attack symptoms. Fell down to the floor. My friends came over. They were all confused. They were saying, "Shaun, are you okay? What's going on?" I told them to ring me mum because when you get sick, the first person you want to ring is your mum. But it's a double whammy for me because my mum is also a paramedic. Doesn't matter if you're a 35-year-old man, you still want your mum. And then they took me to hospital. I got the typical ECG and the blood test done. Everything came back all clear. So it was a little bit confusing. They just said, rest, take it easy. So I did just that. Then 8 days later, me and my girlfriend were in the cinema watching The Whale, starring Brendan Fraser, and we were only about 10 minutes into the film and something just didn't feel right, and I started feeling my heart going dun 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 dun, just increasing in speed very fast. And I put this little heart rate monitor on that my mum gave me the week prior, and it said that my heart rate went from 76 beats per minute all the way up to 165 beats per minute. So I ran out of the screen and I went to the reception. I couldn't breathe. I remember standing there by the pick and mix going, leaning up, and I couldn't talk. And the lad who lets people into the screens was like, "Are you okay, mate?" And I said to him, I said, "You need to get some help, need to ring an ambulance. I think I'm having a heart attack." And this is where I started to get a sense that this is not just going to be a one-time thing. This seems like I've got something going on and I need to document this. So I got my girlfriend to do this video of me.
So here I am, once again, in the hospital, wired up, sitting in the pictures, out of nowhere. Heart rate started flying up to 130, 140 beats per minute, and I felt that shit.
And once again, they did tests on me, and it was all clear. But they booked me in for a few weeks' time for an echocardiogram. Needless to say, when I went for that test, it all came back clear. Everything was sound. And little did I know, this would be the start of a 20 to 22-month-long health battle that completely changed my life for the worse and for the better as well, which we'll get into later. And during this health battle, especially the early stages of it, I couldn't do anything physically or even mentally exerting whatsoever. And considering my job is a personal trainer and gym owner, and a lot of people rely and depend on me, it made shit really difficult. And one of the worst things about all this, which I've never really spoke about publicly, is my little boy was now 2 years old, and he was at that age where he just wanted to play all the time, which was amazing, but I just couldn't do it. Like, he just wanted to play with daddy, and I'd get frustrated because I'd start getting palpitations and I'd start getting really bad headaches and chest pain and extreme fatigue. And then sometimes, I'm ashamed to admit it and I deeply regret it, but sometimes I'd snap at him and I'd shout at him. He's just a little 2-year-old, and, you know, I'm making up for that now with him, but You know, I wish I could go back in time, but it was just that hard and that mentally taxing. Like, I just wanted to play with me boy, and I just had that goal on the horizon in the future. Like, I want to be able to play with me boy. I don't want this to go on forever. I've got to do something about this. So obviously I'm going to the hospital, going to the doctors. They haven't really got any answers for me. So I joined a few long COVID Facebook groups just to try and get some more answers. And some of the stuff in those Facebook groups was okay, but then sometimes it almost creates more anxiety because you're seeing people posting there, I've had this now for 2 years, which would then get me thinking, damn, have I got 2 years, 3 years like this ahead of me? I'd generally recommend to stay away if you can. If you really feel like you need support, those Facebook groups can actually be really helpful, just because you see that there's hundreds, thousands of people out there who are still struggling with this condition now. So with my mindset, I didn't want to take no as an answer. I wanted to get better. Every single day I was researching on how to get better, to the point where my business was taking a nosedive. We had personal trainers who were just leaving the gym because I couldn't really help them out to the level that I wanted to help them. I just didn't have the mental capacity, but I knew that there had to be a light at the end of the tunnel because I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. So step by step over the months, I built a plan of action. I tested loads of different things, a lot of which didn't work, some of which give me positive results, and we're going to touch upon all that right now. So I think a good place to start is what didn't work or what made the health symptoms worse. First off, it's a no-brainer, but stress. I noticed days when I had a little bit more workload on, or maybe I was arguing with my girlfriend, or I had stuff to do, that stress would pile up very fast. My tolerance for stress mentally was a fraction of what it used to be. I used to be able to handle a lot. So little small stresses in life would give me really bad negative health symptoms. So try and keep the stress low. And the next thing, what made it worse, and this is a little bit similar to stress, but cognitive overload. So even if I wasn't really stressed, but I was doing a little bit more work in that day, even if I'm just sitting there typing up stuff, doing online client coaching plans. By the way, if you've been medically cleared by your doctors to train and exercise, and you want to work with me one-on-one to get your health back, get your body back, get your energy back, then apply for my one-on-one online coaching down below. I'm only looking for serious people though who want to invest in themselves long-term. But yeah, I'd just be sitting there writing up plans, thinking that I'm not really exerting myself. But then a few hours would go by and I would be drained. Anything that was even mildly cognitively stimulating would completely drain me, to the point then where I could barely even speak. I actually developed a little bit of a stutter throughout this long COVID journey. I couldn't string a sentence together. In fact, during this long COVID period, I'd just committed to uploading daily on my other YouTube channel. I used to have to speak one sentence at a time, and then after I would finish filming that YouTube video, I would sit here slumped in my chair knowing that I've got to edit it, and I'd be like, it just drain me completely. So try not to stimulate your brain too much. I know it's very difficult to do, especially if you've got a family. Just try to manage your cognitive stimulus. The next thing that made it worse, pretty simple, excessive activity. So some days my missus would be like, come for a walk, it'll be nice, get out in the sun. And I knew it wasn't good for me, but I'd do it just to try and be a supportive partner and to try and be present with my kid. And it would be immediate regret. Like after a short walk, I would feel terrible. And there was a couple times where I did try to train, and that was a no-no. It just made me worse, like a lot worse, and then new symptoms would pop up, and I'd just be like, yeah, why did I do that? So although activity and exercise should be a part of your rehabilitation plan, which we will get to in a moment, when you're in the peak of your sickness, you've got to try and avoid it or just do extremely minimal activity. Another thing that made it worse, now this is very interesting because you hear a lot of people say the opposite to this, but cold showers and ice baths. So there's a lot of reputable people out there, medical professionals, doctors, who say that cold stimulus, cold exposure can actually help with your energy levels when you've got long COVID. So I really suffered from the extreme fatigue. I have seen some medical professionals say that it's due to your adrenal glands being too stimulated. So your body is producing too much adrenaline and cortisol is the stress hormone in our body. And taking a cold shower or ice bath can help with your energy levels, which I thought was a little bit counterintuitive because cold showers and ice baths stimulate your adrenaline even more so. But whatever, I tried it and I was doing it for months, but they always made me feel like crap. And interestingly enough, which we'll get to in a moment, I actually purchased a Whoop band. So that's this right here, little flex of the arm there. Proud that I'm getting my gains back. And the Whoop band tracks your recovery and what negatively impacts your recovery. And every single day that I got a cold shower or ice bath, the Whoop showed me that my recovery would be less that day. So I stopped doing cold showers and ice baths, even though Instagram Instagram is telling us all that you've got to do cold showers and ice baths for the mental resilience, it was making me worse. Another thing that didn't help me and made me symptoms worse is fasting. Now, all this is completely individual because I've seen some people say the fasting really helped them. So I was always doing 16-hour fasts. I mean, that's kind of what I used to do anyway before COVID, and I can't say that it helped. And then I switched to 23-hour fasts, and it's pretty much just eat at 9 p.m. every day. And I didn't really feel like that helped either. Now, the reason why they say fasting is really good for you is because it puts your body into something called autophagy. This is basically the renewing and replenishing of dead cells within your body. So think of your body as renewing itself like a snake shedding its skin. So some people were saying that if you do that, it can help renew your immune system from the inside out, basically. And the more of a prolonged fast you do, the deeper into autophagy that you go. So I decided to do a 72-hour fast. It made everything worse. The headaches were horrible. They were brutal. The fatigue was just as bad, if not worse. And then after I finished the fast for a good 2 weeks, I was even more drained. I just felt horrible from it. So for me, fasting, threw it out the window. No point. Now, the next two things, these are pretty self-explanatory. It's caffeine and alcohol. Caffeine, it stimulates your adrenal glands. It stimulates your brain. But one thing that we know from long COVID is we do not want that. We don't want more adrenaline flowing around our body, and we also don't want our mind to be overstimulated, so stay away from coffee. And finally, alcohol. I know right now that you're getting no enjoyment from life and you feel that just having a little beer or a glass of wine a night is the only enjoyment that you get, but trust me, it's making the situation worse. Alcohol's not good for you anyway. I hate this word, but you do kind of need to detox. You need to give your body a break from all the stimulants and all the toxins that you're putting in it. And when I say toxins, I mean poison. That is alcohol. So they're the main things that made my long COVID worse. Now, here's exactly what I did to overcome long COVID and get back to normal. And I kind of look at my recovery in two phases, which we'll break down now. So phase one was the building momentum and gathering data phase. So after I decided, right, it's time to sort myself out, the first thing I did is I bought the Whoop band. So that's this right here, as you can see. Now, usually you wear it around the wrist, but because I've been going back to kickboxing, I have it up here because it tracks my heart rate a little bit better. Now, the Whoop band is like £27 per month, so yeah, you are on a subscription, but I didn't care. I valued me health and me energy levels and me life more than I valued having an extra £27 in my bank account a month. So the Whoop tracks your recovery, it tracks your sleep, it tracks your exercise, your steps, your heart rate variability, which is basically the intervals in between each heartbeat, which is actually a pretty big factor in determining how good your recovery is. If you've got a very low heart rate variability, it means that your heart health isn't the best. In fact, I want to show you some of my metrics right here. So on the left, we have all my data from when I first started using the Whoop, when I was at my peak sickness and I wasn't really doing much to help me recovery. And then on the right, we've got now, pretty much. If we take a look at the main metrics, I was barely straining myself, barely exerting myself, so 7.8 strain score on a daily basis, compared to now, on average, I have a 17.9 strain score. Look at me recovery here. I used to go all the way down to 5% recovery, but for the most part, me recovery averages between 20% and 60% when I was in peak sickness. Look now on the right, I'm pretty much between 60 and 90% recovery. Look at my heart rate variability on the left. It's only a score of 31. On the right, my heart rate variability now is around 98. My sleep score on the left would be around 29%, whereas on the right, my sleep score now is 75%. Also, take a look at my resting heart rate. On average, it was around 68 beats per minute when I was sick, which for a fit young lad is actually quite high, whereas now my resting heart rate is 46 beats per minute. So the good thing about Whoop is it gives you a daily journal where you input everything that you did the day before. Whoop basically determines what is negatively and positively impacting your recovery score. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, every time I took a cold shower, I could see within the Whoop app that that was negatively impacting my recovery. So I just got rid of the cold showers. I could also see that when I was eating close to bedtime, that was also impacting my sleep performance and me recovery. So gradually over the course of 6 months, I just used the Whoop app to determine what was helping me and what was working against me. I actually attribute this to having the biggest impact on my recovery out of anything, because it gives me data and metrics to go off. Otherwise, you're just kind of shooting in the dark. There's a link below if you want to join the whoop. Next was my supplementation protocol. Now, there's this guy on YouTube called Jez Medinger, and he did a really good video a couple of years ago about what supplements to take and what might have a positive impact on your recovery. So I purchased all these supplements. I took them on a daily basis. Did I notice any improvement whatsoever from taking these supplements? In all honesty, I actually didn't. Did they help a little bit and I didn't really notice? Maybe they helped me get better faster. I mean, it probably didn't harm me, but the main supplement I'm hearing has one of the biggest impacts on your recovery is niacin. Now, I don't know all the science behind it. This guy explains it a lot better than me, but it's relatively cheap. You can get it on Amazon.com. Just make sure that you get a decent quality one. But typically for supplements, I took niacin, vitamin D, a multivitamin, zinc and magnesium. And then as far as I'm aware, I think there's been some recent research showing that taking creatine can really help with your energy levels. It's completely safe to use. It's like the most researched supplement out there. If you've got pre-existing kidney issues, then yeah, don't take creatine, but it won't give you kidney problems. And then also, final supplement, electrolytes. When all these long COVID clinics opened, I know a lot of people who went to these long COVID clinics to get some advice, and the only advice they were giving people was take it easy, try and get more sleep, and take electrolytes. And the reasons why these long COVID clinics were telling people to consume electrolytes was something to do, once again, with your adrenal glands. You're producing too much adrenaline. And in the morning, that adrenaline and cortisol is at its highest. And something to do with taking electrolytes helps lower those adrenaline levels. So I definitely noticed a small improvement from taking creatine and electrolytes. The next thing, which actually really helped me, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit it, and I don't want to seem like one of those hippie types, but meditation. I spoke to a guy called Ben Coomber, who's a nutritionist. He's been around for years, pretty much an expert in nutrition. He suffered with long COVID as well. And it was him who recommended me try this type of meditation called Yoga Nidra. And you can literally type in on YouTube, Yoga Nidra meditation. You can do like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20, 30 minutes, an hour. And I think the reason why the meditation works is because when you've got long COVID, you've got to look at your body as a battery. And when you wake up, even if you've had great sleep and you haven't been stressed the day before and everything has went perfect, you're waking up on 5%. And the analogy I always used to use is imagine waking up with your phone on like 3, 4, 5% and then trying to work on your phone all day. You can only really choose limited tasks to focus on because you're starting the day with such a small amount of battery. So you have to pick and choose what you're going to do that day. And what I found the Yoga Nidra meditation does is it slightly gives you a little bit of a boost on your battery. So I'd wake up on 5% and then I had to go in to train clients. I'd struggle training those clients. And then after 2 or 3 clients, I would literally be on 0%. I'd go in my car, I'd put on a Yoga Nidra meditation, and it had topped me back up to like 5, sometimes 10%. And this extreme fatigue and shakiness and weakness that I had would almost just settle. It wouldn't go away completely. It would just calm the fatigue slightly, enough to then be able to go in and train another client or go home and post a YouTube video. I used to do 5-10 minutes a day. I wouldn't do it every single day, but I'd do it like 3-4 times a week. But then I got to the point where sometimes I would do like a 30-minute meditation, and often I'd just fall asleep and I'd wake up like an hour later and I'd actually feel pretty decent. I wouldn't feel cured, but I'd be like, oh, I felt like I needed that. So yeah, give it a try. Now, the next thing I did to build momentum is I started doing some extremely low intensity activity. And at first I just focused on walking, and that'd take me battery from like 5% down to 0%. But I'd do that a few times a week. And then it got to the point where I could just do a little bit more. So what I'd do is I'd take me gloves into the gym and I'd do a little bit of punching on the bag and I'd just be drained after it. I can almost visualize the fatigue now just thinking about it, and I'd have to lie on the floor of my gym like this after doing like 3-5 minutes on the heavy bag. But then I kept doing that, and it got to the point then where I could do a little bit of the rower machine after punching the bag a little bit, and then I could do like 10 minutes punching the bag. And this is over the course of weeks and months, and at this point I was losing all of my gains. I went down to around 180 pounds in body weight, so that's about like 80 kilos, but I was really skinny but fat at the same time. I was just losing muscle, but the fat was staying. Once again, don't do any activity unless you've consulted your doctor. Your doctor should explicitly state to you, you're fine, to do some exercise. My doctor had long COVID and he said to me, he said, look, I'm a cyclist. You've had these scans, you've had these tests done, everything's fine. I'm pretty happy for you to do exercise, but if you start getting negative health symptoms, just back off a little bit. So that was kind of the all clear for me to go ahead with doing a little bit of cardio. But once again, you just have to consider that battery. Even doing a little bit of cardio is going to drain it completely. Just listen to your body. I hate when people say that, because how do you listen to your body? You've just got to wait until you feel ready again. And the final part of phase 1 is try to keep your diet non-inflammatory. Basically, stay away from alcohol, stay away from junk food, stay away from loads of sugars and trans fats like biscuits and crisps. Now, I'm not saying I did this down to the T, but one thing I did do is I started incorporating more protein into my diet, started eating a little bit less junk food, and started having more fruit in my diet. So one thing that I would do is I ate a whole punnet of strawberries every night before I'd go to bed. Not too close to bedtime, of course, because it would affect me sleep, but try and have like 2 to 3 servings of protein a day, and then try and have like 5 fruits and vegetables a day. In fact, a lot of medical professionals are recommending carnivore diet, ketogenic diet. There's nothing really special about those diets besides the fact that they cut out the junk food and get you to start eating more healthy food. And from all this, I felt a little bit better. I'd still have the extreme fatigue, but I was no longer getting the heart palpitations as regularly as I used to. I was even at the point where I was tracking how many palpitations I was having on a weekly basis, and it got down to the point where I was only having like 2 palpitations a week. And I noticed I was able to be a little bit more sociable, so I went on a couple nights out, which, you know, would mess me up, but I was able to actually attend the nights out. I went on holiday a couple times, which was really tough, but I was able to actually get out and about now. But the problem is, this is where I kind of plateaued a little bit. I was doing all of these methods and strategies for a solid probably like 12, 16 months, and nothing was really changing anymore. And in March last year, 2024, I went on a business mastermind in Dubai for my fitness business, and I was surrounded by a bunch of rich, in shape fitness influencers and entrepreneurs, and it was so motivating. But one thing that was extremely annoying and frustrating, I was the skinny fat one of the group. You wouldn't even think that I've ever been in the gym in my life. And when we got all the footage back from that mastermind, I looked terrible. I just looked awful. It was a point in my life where there was extremely low confidence. But off the back end of that mastermind, I decided to launch my own fitness app, which is now out, called the Apex Athlete. It was so much work getting that set up, but it almost gave me like a second wind. It's like, right, okay, my health isn't really getting better, but I'm launching this fitness app. I've just invested a lot of money into it. I need to get better now, because I need to get in good shape. I need to lead by example. Why is anyone going to sign up to my fitness app when I look like this? So that's where phase 2 started. And this is where I got a little bit more intentional on the physical side of things. So what I did, I went into my own gym with a very loose plan of how I wanted to approach this recovery process. And my workout was basically this: a few stretches and 2 exercises. That's it. So I'd do my stretches, and then I'd do a little bit of bench press, 40 kilograms, 50 kilograms. Everything was shaking. Don't forget, I used to bench press 140 kilos. I'd do like 2 sets of bench press. Then I'd go on pull downs and do like 2 sets of that on 30 kilograms. Barely anything. And with every set that I did, I could feel my body just fading and getting weaker and feeling like I was just going to collapse. And then I'd be driving home and I'd feel all lightheaded. Sometimes I'd have to pull over and wind the windows down and just take a breath and just relax a little bit and calm myself down. And then what would happen, my body would have this inflammatory response after that simple workout. I'd get sick for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like really badly sick. The headache had come back, but I just said to myself, do you know what? Right, okay, this is really frustrating, but let's let it pass and then we'll go again. So like 2-3 weeks would pass, and then I'd right back to the gym. Let's do that workout again. Little bit of bench press, little bit of pull downs, some stretches, and then bang, like that, literally sick again, just annoying. So this is like June, July 2024 now. So I'd wait 2-3 weeks, then I'd get back to the gym and I'd do a workout. And then the day after, like, I'd be okay. I'd be like, all right, okay, I feel all right today. So I'd wait a day or 2, and then I'd do another workout. It's like, oh, now I can do 2 workouts in a week. Once again, it was just the bench press and the pull downs, but now I can do it on the Monday and the Wednesday. Fantastic, good result. And then I get sick again. Damn it. But now the sickness didn't last as long. I'd be sick for like a week and then I'd go back to the gym. Now I can train 3 times a week once again. Exactly the same workout. And then by August, September-ish, I was able to actually just train pretty consistently 2-3 times a week with minimal health symptoms. Now, don't get me wrong, the workouts were still extremely basic and minimal, but I noticed I was able to go a little bit heavier on bench press. Now I'm benching 60 kilograms. Now I'm doing pull downs with 50 kilograms. Now I'm doing another exercise like shoulder press. And then apart from a couple other bouts of sickness between September and December, I was generally okay, and I started making really good progress again. In fact, here is my transformation from like July to September. As you can see, I packed on a significant amount of mass. Now, I also did go a little bit crazy with the calorie intake. I was eating about 3,000 to 3,800 calories a day, which for my activity level at the time was a little bit too much, but I felt like to combat the extreme fatigue, I needed the calories for the recovery. And once again, speaking of recovery, I was still tracking everything on the Whoop app. Now I'm trying to get better sleep. So rather than going to bed at like 1 a.m. or 12 or even 11, instead, I was getting into bed with me boy at like 8, 9 p.m. And then I was having a fantastic sleep. And then I'm waking up at like 6 a.m. naturally with a little bit more energy, a little bit more of a spring in my step. And then pretty much by January, February 2025, this year, I'd recovered about 80%. And now here we are at the end of May, and I'm about 95% the way there. I still have the odd little health symptom here and there. I'm not 100% back to normal. Every day is still a struggle to get the motivation to train and exercise, but I know that I've got to do it. It's just about discipline now. It's not about motivation anymore. I've got bigger goals than just trying to get back in shape. I'm trying to lead by example for me app members. I'm trying to lead by example for me online clients. But most importantly, I'm trying to lead by example for me family. If I'm fitter and healthier, then I'm happier. If I'm happier, I'm a better dad, I'm a better partner, I'm a better businessman. And also in January of this year, we just had our second baby. So he's now almost 5 months old. And I know that once he gets to that age where all he'll want to do is play, that I'll be able to actually play with him, and I'll be able to be the dad that I couldn't really be to me first boy when he was 2. You know, so that's like a nice little thing. Like, I feel emotional talking about it. Yeah. But another amazing thing is we just got back from Dubai a couple of weeks ago, where I did a few collaborations for my main channel, and we went on a family trip as well. Me little 4-month-old, he couldn't go out in the heat. So my girlfriend and her mum had to keep me little newborn indoors. But then me and my 4-year-old, we'd go to the water park for like 4-5 hours by ourselves. And we literally did not stop. We ran around that water park and the fairgrounds, the theme parks, non-stop. And I felt like I was 20 years old again. And to look back on my journey, a lot of people don't understand. They just think, long COVID, what's that? But man, it was tough. It was really, really hard. You know, we have that recency bias in our minds where you just think, oh, everything's good, everything sounds. But when you look back on it, and I'm at the end of this video now, and after talking about it all, like, it was a very, very hard journey. And it takes some mental resilience to get through it. I'm not trying to big myself up here, but I'm just trying to give you guys a little bit of motivation. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, guys. 1000% there is. But there's certain things that you can do to determine how long that tunnel is going to be. And, you know, if you're doing a lot of bad things, poor things with your lifestyle, you're just elongating the length of that tunnel before you get to the light. So hopefully you can take some tips from this video to shorten that journey and get to the point where I'm at right now, which is ultimately just being able to live life again. So as I say, guys, if you want a long-term sustainable plan on how to get your health back and how to lose weight and get in shape and get strong again, fill out my online coaching form down below and we can set up a call, have a little bit of a chat and create a roadmap for you. Or if you want a more budget-friendly option, feel free to check out my app down below. It'll build you out a customized training program and customized nutrition plan to follow. Okay, guys, I hope this video has been valuable to you, and only subscribe if you want fitness content. This is a little bit of a one-off video just because people demanded it, but yeah, subscribe for weekly fitness content. Appreciate you all, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.